is Carl Bernstein on CNN. And we do have this. We have this Jason Chaffetz is starting up an investigation onto Trump's ownership of this hotel. Last night, Hugh Hewitt talking about impeachment, just raising it as an issue. We're 5 days in. He is. You're starting to see people talk about the 25th Amendment. When was the last time you ever heard anybody talk about the 25th Amendment? Did you even know that the 25th Amendment of the United States Constitution basically says we have a mechanism to remove a president if they are, well, I guess the 25th Amendment comes into play like when a president gets shot, right?
You know what? You know who you can thank for all this? Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the DNC machine, and you and Chris Hayes and everyone else screwed Bernie, who paved the way, stole the primary for Hillary, and you said, oh, Donald Trump is so bad, but you ensured he happened.
Here is Carl Bernstein talking about this ABC interview, which was, again, you know, some of the stuff was sort of run-of-the-mill Trump stuff, right? Even the torture stuff, as sort of insane as we say that is, sort of like broadly speaking, I thought that was basically run-of-the-mill Donald Trump stuff. But the stuff about the CIA, the stuff about him bragging to lawmakers is crazy. Oh, you know what the story he told lawmakers was, right? This is a story he told lawmakers about the voting, where he got the notion of all these illegal votes that were happening. Apparently, people, and I have no reason to believe it's just Democrats. On Monday, President Trump gathered House and Senate leaders in the state dining room for a get-to-know-you reception. This is reported by, I think, Glenn Thrush. I think is New York Times or Washington Post?
Politico.
No, he's not there anymore.
Oh, he's not Politico anymore. Okay.
Washington Post, I think. No, Times. Trump kicked off the meeting by retelling his debunked claim that he would have won the popular vote if not for the 3 to 5 million ballots cast by illegals. When one of the Democrats at the dinner protested, Trump said he was told a story by the very famous golfer, Bernhard Langer.
Great guy.
Whom he described as a friend. This is according to 3 staff members who were in the room for the meeting.
I do think Hitler had less leaks.
3 witnesses, and presumably these, I don't know if these, the 3 witnesses recalled Mr. Langer being the protagonist of the story, although a White House official claimed the president had been telling a story relayed to the golfer by one of Mr. Langer's friends. Mr. Langer is a 59-year-old native of Bavaria, Germany, winner of the Masters, et cetera, was, according to the story, was standing in line at a polling place near his home in Florida on Election Day when an official informed Mr. Langer he would not be able to vote. Ahead of and behind Mr. Langer, this is according to Donald Trump, were voters who did not look as if they should be allowed to vote, Mr. Trump said, according to the staff members, but they were nonetheless permitted to cast provisional ballots. The president threw out the names of Latin American countries that the voters might have come from. I don't know if they were from Mexico or one of the Ecuador.
He could have been from anywhere. He could have been from El Chapo.
Mr. Langer, whom Trump described as a supporter, left feeling frustrated, according to a version of events later contradicted by a White House official. The anecdote, the aide said, was greeted with silence. Everybody's just sort of looking around, staring at each other. You just explained that there's 3 to 5 million votes based on this one story told to you by this German golfer.
Like, can we get him some antipsychotic psychotropics while we ram through the destruction of America, please?
Mr. Trump was prodded to change the subject by Reince Priebus. and Senator John Cornyn. Like, maybe you could just, that's a great story.
A great anecdote, Mr. President. Want to talk about Mar-a-Lago?
Here's the problem. Mr. Langer, who lives in Boca Raton, Florida, is a German citizen with permanent resident status in the United States who is, by law, barred from voting. This according to Mr. Langer's daughter, Christina. He's a citizen of Germany, she said, when reached on her father's cell phone. He's not a friend of President Trump, so I don't know why he would talk about him. A senior White House staff member who was not at the Monday reception but has heard Mr. Trump tell the story said Mr. Langer saw Mr. Trump in Florida during the Thanksgiving break and told him the story of a friend of Mr. Langer's who had been blocked from voting. So there you have it. That's what presented that leak, which has made Donald Trump so crazy. Here is Carl Bernstein on CNN raising the specter that, and remember, this is the guy who reported on Nixon, who there's been movies about how sort of like, really, he had some emotional issues. 4 days into this presidency, 5 days into this presidency, it seems that people are ringing just a slightly louder alarm bell.
I think there is a subtext here that is unlike anything that I have seen in 50 years of being a reporter. And that is that I am hearing from Republicans, and other reporters are as well, that there is open discussion by members of the President of the United States' own party about his emotional maturity, stability. People are saying his psyche is driving the news cycle, that we are in uncharted territory here, and we ought to talk to some of our colleagues about what they are hearing. I think it's a really fruitful area, because I've never heard talking about a president the way this subtext is now a talking point.
You hear what he's saying there? I'm having Republicans tell me that they're worried that the president is insane. And what Bernstein is also saying is that in the past, we hear things as reporters that are on background, that are broad and general, that we don't report. We didn't report the dossier, for instance, because we can't substantiate it. And we normally would not report on something like they say he's crazy because I'm not a doctor. I can report that a psychiatrist went in there and said, and wrote up a report that said he's crazy. But I can't report that but it's becoming so prominent in Carl Bernstein's conversations with Republicans that Carl Bernstein is now saying that, like, us reporters should start to communicate with each other about these stories to get a sense of just how real, and I think more importantly, urgent this is. So, I mean, look, it's Carl Bernstein saying this today. Next week, it's going to be others. And the way you're going to watch this go, it seems to me, is it's going to move. If you put Carl Bernstein on some type of spectrum of reporters in terms of how liberal his contacts are, how establishment his Republican contacts are, as opposed to, let's say, maybe a guy like Costa, from the Washington Post, I think he's still, who has more like Tea Party, sources. You're going to be able to track just like how widely, because Bernstein's not just saying that. I don't think Bernstein's freelancing. I think Bernstein's saying, like, can I talk about this generally? Can I talk about this generally? Because that's what reporters, they do. They basically have a conversation. There is an understanding and agreement with the regular sources that, like, all this stuff is, off the record. And then at different times, the reporter will say, can I mention this on background? Can I mention this and they negotiate how one's going to mention it. You can say a senior source, senior official in the administration. All these words mean something. We're seeing this now, 5, 6 days in. I mean, 10 days, we're going to be seeing something different.
Carl, you think that he's a crazy fucking guy? I think Ryan's going to be having that conversation.
It's going to be really...
What's good, though, is he's surrounded by people that are really mentally healthy. It's not like his...
Like Mike Pence.
Yeah, it's not like his associates are religious fanatics or bigoted alcoholics.
Hey, it's Sam Seder. Why don't you subscribe to this channel? You can do so right over here. Over. Subscribe.